these mullahs, the Ayatollah, these group of religious leaders that somehow got into power in this country, they have one goal, and that is to eradicate all of the pride around the Persian culture that these people have. They want nothing to do with any of that. They don't even like Nowruz. They don't like Persian New Year. They don't like the history of places like Persepolis. They don't support it. They don't fund it. They want to get rid of everything, because what do they care about? Using this fucking religion as a excuse to use and abuse and rule a group of people and take them back. Welcome to the Alfalfa podcast. We are back with a politics episode on Iran, not Iran. Okay, Iran. Let's just start with the basics.
My entire family pronounces it.
Yeah. Let's just start with the basics.
Back home, we say Iran.
Oh man, even Biden does it. He does it like egregiously. Was it Biden the other day that did? Yeah. No, it wasn't Biden.
What's worth him doing that, or Obama when he used to say Pakistan?
Yeah, that was too much.
That always used to drive me crazy.
That was too much. But Pakistan is like, that's like you're really trying. Iran is like you don't even have to try. What word is there in the English language where you say the I in and of itself and then the rest
It's like
of the
when
word?
people say Oregon instead of Oregon.
It's worse. Iran is way worse. It's just like, I think Bush started that. Pretty sure it was Bush.
He started a lot of things.
Yeah.
Some of them ended in tragedy.
Hell of a golf swing, though.
Yeah, watch me hit this drive.
Still I think probably my favorite clip from the internet of all time, I totally agree. Oh, man. It was real, right? Like there was no break in that. Like that's exactly how it went down. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that for certain. I just want it to be true, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Iran, and I'll be honest. I feel like I need someone else to get this going. This is a very challenging topic for me. There's a lot to break down. The overall kind of structure of this episode is to talk about what is going on today in Iran. What appears to be a revolution in the makings. I think history is happening before our eyes. And then transitioning to history, how we got here, what really has been going on, what is the historical context of the situation, and then what are the future consequences of, regardless of how this plays out, what does this mean for the region, what does this mean for the world? So there's a lot to break down, and I guess the reason I'm saying it's challenging for me, just to give you guys some context, I don't think you guys even know this, but like, so I have always tried to have in the back of my pocket an option to go to Iran. So I'm an American, born and raised in California, but my parents are from Iran, and Persian culture, food, language has been a huge part of my life. And I have heard stories my entire life. Stories, anecdotal, but also politics, history, my entire life. And not just only because of my attachment to this land do I want to go, but also because simply as just like a person who loves world travel, I can't think of a better, cooler, more interesting place to go than Iran. And there's a traveler that I love, Drew Binsky. For those of you that don't know him, he's an amazing YouTuber. And his favorite country in the world is Iran. He went to every single country in the world, and he's like, it's my favorite country in the world. And then Anthony
Bourdain said that same thing.
Favorite country in the world, Anthony Bourdain. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, I want to go so bad. And that comment of favorite country in the world is even in this political climate of these ayatollahs running a theology dictatorship. And yet they're still saying that. So I've always tried to keep this in my back pocket as a possibility, but I actually realized, and I've been trying to plan this trip. I want to go with my dad. It would be so meaningful. But this example will give you so much context of what it's like there. For me to go, first of all, because I am a descendant of an Iranian person, I have to serve in the military. Like, if you visit, they can literally be like, hey, thanks for stopping by. Go serve your 2 years.
Totally.
What?
So you could pay off, apparently, somebody, but nothing is black and white there. It's all gray. They interpret the law as they like on an individual basis. That's one thing. The second thing is we talk a lot of shit on this podcast. And over the last 5 to 10 years, I've put a lot of content out there. There's no telling what they would say the moment I arrive at that border. Like, they Google your name, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you got some videos on porn and guns and, even all these. And regardless of this episode, I realized recently that I already am at risk. I could easily just be, how many journalists, how many scientists, how many people they've just been like, you're a spy, you're going to, maximum security prison, and God knows what happens to you. And some of them don't ever come back. So I've recently realized that, like in soccer, when you're getting a red card and you get it for a dumb reason, you might as well just get it for a good reason.
You want to send it. Let's
send it, man. Let's send
it.
Okay,
well, just so you're clear, my wife's from Iran, and she even told me before this episode, she's like, you better be careful what you say, because like we intend to go at some point, and she's like, what you say here might impact, your future, and I'm cognizant of that. I don't know that I want to send it.
You got no, I can tell you right now, you have no line. There's no way. I mean, you're already, that's the thing. It's already a red card. It's already too late. It's already too late.
So
it has
hold on.
nothing to do with commentary about Iran. It's already too late. If they want to have a problem, they already have a problem.
Well, hold on. I grow a pretty decent mustache. That already helps me. And the fact that I'm half Chinese, I think also helps me, because like China and Iran are kind of like in cahoots. I feel like I could make it through if I just tiptoe my way out of this episode.
I think you'll be fine. And look, the point is, like I always say this to people, it's like I have way more reason to be concerned than the average person. People from any country in the world, they can happily, before all this chaos that's been going on right now, could go to Iran, no problem. And if you're an American, like a Drew Binsky or an Anthony Bourdain or whatever, you gotta, when you go, you have to have a guide. That's kind of the requirement, essentially.
It's like North Korea.
I don't know how North Korea is, but yeah, you got to have like a tour guide. And yeah, so I share that to say, like, I don't know. I guess I'm just, this is a lot for me, because it's always been a risk to not just be out there as a public figure and maybe want to go, but to actually now hit this straight on. All right, that's enough of a fucking preamble. So let's get into it. What is going on in Iran? So everybody knows essentially that a woman was walking down the street. Imagine your sister, your cousin, young girl, and she had some hair exposed. Pretty much everybody does. Unless they're like very religious and conservative, most women wear their scarves like halfway on. That's just like how they rock it, because they're required to. Walking down the street, gets pulled over by this so-called morality police. And with this new president, things are stricter with this president. And the president is just a puppet. It's just a fucking puppet. This is a dictatorship. And the morality police, which is basically like a secret police, pulls her over, takes her into custody, beats the fucking living shit out of her. She goes into a coma and she dies. That's happening. Like that actually, that's not the first one either. This stuff happens. And, it was one of my cousins said this to me. He's like, Armand, just imagine like a boiling cup of water, and they added one more fucking drop to that boiling cup of water, and it is exploding. That's really what's happening here. Yes, this is about women's rights. Yes, this is about human rights and the atrocities that have been going on in this country for so long. But these people have had enough. Times 10. And the people that are out in the streets protesting this, are young 20-year-olds with aggression, energy, and this is the straw that broke the camel's back. And this was the last straw for them. This was it. It was like in a climate where, and I think that it's so funny how things are interrelated. COVID, the pandemic, George Floyd. I think all of these precursors actually have made this moment possible massively. Because if it wasn't for the world watching what happened in the United States, which I think was for a different reason, it was for a specific reason, and it evolved into something that got very confusing, but it still stood as a framework for, hey, when something is over the line and enough is enough, people now have a model for how to show up in the streets and get results. And you could argue George Floyd got tremendous results for society and moving things in the right direction, at least in the United States. And in Iran, this is not about this individual case. This is about 43 years, if not even longer, of just absolute human rights atrocities and these people living in a prison, and they have had enough. And these young people that are out in the streets are kind of like me in the sense that they've been hearing these stories their entire lives, and they are filled with anger because they have been told about the glory of what Iran and the Persian culture is and used to be, and how they are living under a rock, and how this is just completely fucked. And they're filled with anger, and that's why they're out in the streets. But there's also a lot of hope. So there's a lot going on.
So like this brave woman, Masha Amini, I believe is her name. Masha, I believe Masha chose to die for this cause. Like I believe that the morality police probably gave her an option. They said like, either reform and we'll let you back, or else. And she's like, fuck it. I will die for this. That's how I believe it is. And what an inspiration, because I think her sacrifice is what's inspiring this revolution. And it's hard.
That's interesting.
It's hard not to get emotional. I see the videos out there of citizens in the street. I see videos of women in the street burning their hijab, and it's like, how do you not get swept up in emotion by this? It's like, I hope that this is the revolution. I hope that this sticks, because there's been a lot of false starts with any revolution in any culture. There are a lot of stops and starts, and it takes a lot to be the one. So, man, I hope this is the one.
I do too, and there's a lot. We'll get into future consequences later, but I think there's a lot of pent-up emotion in every way in that country right now. There's a lot of optimism, but there's also a lot of fear, because no one knows what's coming next. No one knows if this is even going to be successful. No one knows how many people are going to have to die for this to happen. One thing that I think it's very important context to understand about this country. I cannot understate how proud these people are of their culture. These are almost just, it's absolutely crazy how ingrained poetry, music, philosophy, mathematics, architecture, beauty is in the culture of these people. And I say that they're proud today, even given that this world that they're living in. So you have to imagine how proud they used to be when it was an open society, when they were able to display their good nature, their art, their whatever they had to the world before 1979, when this revolution happened and this latest regime has been in power. Even still, they are proud. So you have to understand, these mullahs, the Ayatollah, these group of religious leaders that somehow got into power in this country, they have one goal, and that is to eradicate all of the pride around the Persian culture that these people have. They want nothing to do with any of that. They don't even like Nowruz. They don't like Persian New Year. They don't like the history of places like Persepolis. They don't support it. They don't fund it. They want to get rid of everything because what do they care about? Using this fucking religion as a excuse to use and abuse and rule a group of people and take them back. You know, there's a famous video I posted on Instagram. It's like they asked the Shah. And again, I'm not like some big monarchy Shah supporter. And we'll talk about this, Eric, when we talk about history. But it's like, yes, things were better, but they weren't great before the revolution. That's obviously why there was a revolution. But they asked the Shah, they're like, you know, what's going to happen if this Ayatollah, if this religious figure takes over from you? And the Shah means king, right? They asked the Shah, what's going to happen? And he's like, it will take this country back 1,500 years. No question. And that's exactly what has happened. This is arguably the most backward society in the world other than North Korea. I mean, it's terrifying there. It's scary. And these people can't sing. They can't dance. They can't fucking go and date in public. They can't do anything. All under the guise of this fucking religion. And I want to make something clear. This is not me bashing on Islam as a religion. It's bashing these people, these sick, corrupt people that are using religion to rule people and go to these absolute, you know, it's all interpretation. They're just using it. They're abusing it. And they care about nothing. They care about nothing other than political power and stealing money as much as humanly possible. And look at what it's done. They're rejects in the world. They've turned this nation into a rogue nation. These are educated. It's one of the youngest nations in the world. Thank God, because that's why there are so many people in the streets. Educated. 60% of university students are women. This is not some country with a bunch of like, and again, there are plenty of like religious people in Iran, but one thing people don't understand is like they imagine this as just like some desert country. No, this is a country of very educated people, and they've been able to try to stay educated even though they've been living under this regime. These are strong women, as Eric knows. These are proud women. And when you fuck with them, as they have for 43 years, and then they've been hearing from their parents how awful things have been, you push that line, and what you have now is one of the most beautiful, courageous things I've ever seen in my life. You have women living under a dictatorship on the front lines, leading a revolution. Tell me where you've seen that in the world. God, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, man.
It's unbelievable.
It's fucking crazy. I feel so bad for these people.
I hope this is the one. I hope this is the one. I think it's important to give a bit of context historically, right? Like, how did we get to this point? And you know, it's hard, right? So I'm an outsider. My wife was born in Iran. She lived there until she was 17 years old. Her folks lived there until they were in their 50s. And I'm talking to them. I'm reading, hopefully credible sources. I'm reading like the encyclopedia to try to understand, like, how do we get to this point? And what I learn in talking to people is like, well, back in the 20s, it's about oil, right? It's always about freaking money and resources. That's the way it always works out. So England, the UK wanted oil from the region, right? And they installed the Shah's dad, Reza Shah, back in 1921. And the idea was that this individual would secure their oil resources in the region. And he did, up until there was an uprising in the early 50s. And I forget this guy's name. It starts with an M. But this guy's Mossadegh, yeah. So that guy came out and he destroyed the oil resources of England. And England's like, well, fuck that. We'll install somebody new. They installed the Shah. That's who we call the Shah. It's Reza Shah's son, Mohammed Reza, I believe, is what he's called. And he ruled from 53 to 79 when the revolution happened. And And I think the most interesting part about this revolution is that that revolution in the late 70s, I, as a Westerner, I always thought like, oh, here we go again, intervening and fucking shit up for other nations. Like that revolution in the late 70s was actually internally led. And right. as it often starts, you have economic instability. You see this like in Germany. You see this like with Hitler rising to prominence. You see like it all starts with economic instability. People have like unrest, and they like, so in the late 70s there was like rampant inflation globally. Like the US was going through rampant inflation. It was a tough time. So the people of Iran are upset. You know, they've already gone through an amazing renaissance. First of all, like from the 50s to late 70s was a time of prosperity up until it wasn't, right? Like, and then when inflation and probably global recession hits, people are like, well, this guy's fucking it up for us. They turn to a charismatic leader, the Ayatollah, who is a scholar, like studied at Cambridge, like is like the Ayatollah is coming out with ideas to say, they're radical ideas, but he's saying like, let's get rid of this guy. Let's go back to our Islamic roots. Let's recapture our greatness. And people attach to that. And I'm seeing parallels in many different civilizations, including the United States today, where, you know, like there's economic instability and people are saying like, well, we just need this new leader to drain the swamp and be this like new voice. And like, you know, like you never know what you're going to get on the other side. Like it always seems great. Change always feels great at the moment. You never really know what you're going to get on the other side. And I think from my perspective, it's like you wanted change, you got dramatic change, and like you didn't realize like that it could get worse. And I think that's where we land now. It's like Ayatollah came in and it got worse, like way worse.
It got way worse. I think you mentioned this, but there's been a ton of intervention. And in 1953, that was a doctor, Mossadegh. He was democratically elected. And his job was similar in that he said, hey, there's been all this intervention. We're selling our oil for cheap. We're getting taken advantage of. We need to nationalize our resources. You know, simple kind of just like, hey, we've become a puppet nation. We need to take back control, take back our pride. CIA came in, the jackals, and it was one of the easiest coups like ever. You know, they just did some propaganda and quickly got rid of the guy, you know, sent some CIA jackals into Tehran. This was in 1953. So we, the United States, came in and changed that. And then you got the Shah's son. He's there until 1979. And guess what? Yeah, it was prosperous. Iran had like a good reputation in the world. They were able to export and import, and people visited, and American business people would go to Tehran on business. And it was just an open, normal country in the Middle East, right?
Oh, and you see photos of like the people at that time. They look like they're prospering. Women look
thriving.
Like they're enjoying themselves on the beach, like in bikinis and stuff. It just like looks
half
joyous.
Naked. And by the way, there were Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and Muslims. Every religion under the sun. There was a respect for choice. There was an individual level of freedom. Now, could you talk shit about the Shah really openly? No, go into jail. Could you do certain things against the monarchy? No, you'd probably get fucking murdered. So there was secret police. There were people that you didn't mess with. So kind of similar in that way where, okay, if you mess with the monarchy, if you get a little too Marxist on us, you know, like one of my family members was basically a Marxist, a woman, my mom's cousin, jail, Evin prison for years. So I've heard all these stories. I hear what it's like inside that prison. I hear what you can and can't say. And they reformed her. It's like, okay, we're going to reform you. You mentioned another thing as well, though. The revolution in 1979 is so complex and there are so many layers to it. You're absolutely right that Ayatollah Khomeini was an inspirational figure because he obviously took advantage of a lot of the economic instability, the injustices that were happening, the fact that if you weren't on the Shah's team, you were not going to survive. But he didn't take them back to their Islamic roots, because this is something I want to also differentiate about Iran in this region of the world. Iran doesn't have Islamic roots. Iran is the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire has roots that are far, far deeper, and that's why they're so proud. They have so much history, not just militarily, but the education that things that they've created and put out into the world. And pre-Islam was Zoroastrianism, and Zoroastrianism is the core religion of that country, of that people. Essentially, Islam was conquesting just like Catholicism was, and Islam showed up and was able to conquer and take over and install Islam in that country and its people. But there's always been a deep resent. Not every single person you ask, because some of them are just generationally become Muslim now, but there is a deep resent toward Islam in Iran, and that's why they have their own version of it. Now, I don't know much about Islam. I don't know much about the religion. I've never been religious, but Shia Islam is a very different form of Islam than Sunni Islam, and that's why there's so much conflict in that region as well, even just amongst these people. So it's almost like their way of being like, fine, we'll do it, but we'll do it our way when you make somebody do it. So there's so much resent that has been built up, and a lot of people imagine that Iran is a country of very observant Muslims. After the revolution in 1979, all the Jews had to leave, all the Baha'i had to leave, all the Christians, not all, but mostly, had to leave, because all of a sudden there's this religious figure who's like, anything you do that is against Islam is bad, and well, fuck you. So they had to leave. That's why so many people, the diaspora, that's why so many Persian people had to leave Iran in 1979. But the people that are left are resentful. And then instead of things getting better, not only did they get worse, they got catastrophic. It's been disastrous for them for the last 43 years. And sure, there are some people in that country that are going to speak up and say, no, these young people are wrong. The lady was wrong. There are some, of course, conservative religious people, but the majority of people are very young. And this is what people also don't understand is like the women in Iran, the people in Iran, the young people in Iran, just because the law states that they can't drink, they can't do all these things, they can't do drugs. Do you think they don't do that stuff?
Oh, it just happens in their home. Yeah.
Happens in their home. High drug rate. They're all having sex. They're all breaking all the rules. It's just happening underground. It's not like they're walking around like, yes, like this all the time. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I won't break any rules. They're constantly pushing it. But now that they got pushed so hard, that's why they're in the streets. This is about much more than just what happened to Mahsa Amini. This is about an opportunity for revolution. Yes, Stephen.
What percentage of the country would you say doesn't vibe with like the whole religious like infrastructure? Because I don't know as an outsider. Is it a 50-50 thing? Is it like 90-10, but this 10% is just so powerful? Like what is the split there approximately? Do you know?
No, I think this is very, very popular. This is very, very popular. I mean, I think that people want look, do some people want to exercise their religion and wear hijabs? Yeah. But it's a choice. It's a choice. It should be a choice. It's a freedom of choice. So like, do they want to, are they all anti-Islam? No. Some of them would, sure, they're Muslim and they'd like to be, but some of them, many of them are agnostic and they have to act like they're not, because they'll get in trouble. So like, how religious are most people? I would say not. If you look at it statistically, if you take a snapshot and you go to Wikipedia, it'll be like, yeah, this country is 95% Muslim. Yeah, but what choice do they have? What are you talking about? Like, you going down the street talking to people, the words that come out of these people's mouths when you talk to them is like, man, they are angry. They are angry. They don't want this shit. They don't want a government ruled by religion. They want it to be a choice, just like any of us do. They don't want to be mandated to wear hijabs. They don't want to be. They don't want women to not have the right to go to soccer games. Like, how funny is that? It's a joke.
It's hard because and here's where I'm struggling is it's because there's so much nuance. It's not just good versus evil here. When you're wanting change, it has to change into something. And like another prominent force that's been fighting against the Ayatollah for a long time is called the Mujahideen, and that seems as an outsider to me like another oppressive regime, and they were formerly labeled as like a terrorist organization in the West, like up until 2012. Like they've been fighting against Ayatollah for a long time, and it's like, okay, so you want to rid him of power, and then like, okay, so what's next? I think like the grass can always be greener when you're thinking about change, but it's like that's why we're in this place. It's because you think that, oh, well, change is good, and it's like it doesn't always turn out in a positive outcome.
It nailed it. It would be an absolute disaster if the Mujahideen took over. That would just be literally like another shade of what they're already experiencing right now. It would just be absolutely terrible. But the thing is,
what is the difference between the political views? Because for us in the West, it all kind of seems like the same thing sometimes, but obviously there's some difference there, even if they are both sort of fundamentalist.
We don't even know what people want because they don't have an opportunity to vote for it. The only vote that they've ever had is a puppet president under a theocracy. So there's an Ayatollah, which is the religious figure that is in charge. That is the preeminent ruler of the country and has been since 1979. And there's been two of those, and because the previous one died. And they have these puppet presidents that they put into place. And in 2009. There was one of these so-called presidents that ran under a sort of green party perspective. Like his whole take was like green energy and sustainability. That was so amazing and radical to people that they used that as a vehicle to get behind to cause a revolution. So it started to look like what they were really doing was getting behind this president for his green ideas, but that wasn't what it was. It was just another vehicle to say, okay, cool, let's get in the streets to support this guy and potentially topple the entire Ayatollah system and this regime toward a more democratic system. You know what happened? Thousands of people died. And then you know what happened? They voted and he lost.
Well,
lost.
Let's go forward looking a little bit, because I think it's really interesting how the U.S. particularly chooses to get involved or not in specific things. And I'll go tinfoil EJ a little bit here. It's like we just shipped off another 1.4 billion to Ukraine today. We won't get involved here. Why? And like I want to know what happens if the Ayatollah regime falls now in Iran. Like they've been a power in that Middle East region, particularly with all the Islamic nations. They've been the power. Like what happens when if they fall? Like, what is the outcome there? Like this is dramatic.
I'm very curious about this too. I mean, Stephen, you're familiar with Zihan's work and his perspective of geopolitics, not just in that region, but around the world. And one of the things I quickly learned from his perspective was that he said that like over this next decade, assuming everything kind of stays the way it is, there's going to be a big battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia for control of that region. And also Turkey is kind of in a position where they're thriving economically to come in and play some sort of game or balance with these two nations and either get involved militarily or kind of stay back and watch them duke it out. How do you see this playing out if there is actually like instability in Iran and a complete regime change?
I mean, the short answer is I have absolutely no idea. And history, I think history has shown that trying to predict how these sort of regime changes in that region will go is like a complete fool's errand. It seems to always go badly.
Right, like when we removed we removed Saddam Hussein, who was like this awful dictator, but Saddam Hussein kept the whole freaking region under control. We removed him, and then it just spiraled way out of control into ISIS, ISIL, et cetera. Like it just goes back to the idea where you want change, but you don't realize what's on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, and it's so confusing, right? Because from our perspective, if you don't really see what's going on, you're like, wait, why like Iran and Saudi Arabia like hate each other, right? And if you're from our perspective, right, you're like, wait, why do these two Islamic nations like hate each other and fight. And then you throw Israel in there, and then they both sort of hate Israel, but it seems now like Iran hates Israel more. So Israel's been kind of like, well, maybe we don't hate the Saudis as much. Maybe we'll, send them some weapons or something. And and it's like this like triangular clusterfuck there. And then one reason Iran is like really important geographically is because the Strait of Hormuz runs through there, and it's this super critical oil shipping lane, especially for China, right? Like that's China's like direct route to like getting oil, and they do not produce energy internally anywhere near the rate to sustain their people and their economy. So that's just like a super critical choke point. I mean, I personally like don't understand our Iran policy at all, and it seems like we don't understand it either, because
we don't understand it.
We have two parties, and one of them wants to basically, ship pallets of cash over there and let them build a nuke in 10 years or something, and then the other party is like, wait, what the hell are you doing? That's like terrible. And I try to understand the perspectives from each side, because it surely can't be as simple as one or the other, because certain elements of each perspective seem ridiculous to me. So yeah, it's we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what the future holds. Like we've been meddling in that region forever and just seemingly have made it worse. So I don't know what's going to happen. It does seem like lately that we have seen a bit more of a schism between like the sort of dollar financialized version of the Western world and this like split off to like the sort of hard asset sort of axis of evil type Russia, China, Iran, right? Like they're kind of like it seems like they're getting together to do things like produce and purchase oil, like to transact in oil, not in dollars. We've heard of Iran using like Bitcoin, and so I'm assuming that is going to become more and more of a cornerstone of geopolitics in the near future, especially if we're right and like oil goes to $200 or $300 a barrel eventually. Like the strategic importance of a place like Iran, like that is such a like an oil producing nation that is sort of aligned, at least in sort of a like the enemy of my enemy is my friend way with the likes of Pakistan and Russia and China. Like yeah, it's a powder keg, and I think the strategic importance is going to go up and in the coming years. One thing I did see like in kind of researching this, and it's funny you bring up Zion, because a lot of people have been asking him to comment on, is this revolution, like, is this it? Is it really happening? And his response was sort of like, no, like this has been happening since 2009, basically, pretty regularly. And there's just like a questioning of like, is it really real this time? Is something really going to happen this time? Or is this like just something that we've latched onto the story of because of social media and the horrific things happening with like women, and the story is really bad. But I'm curious, Armand, like if you think it is different this time, why is this different than all of the other protests we've seen over the last like decade and a half?
That's an interesting thought that he's sharing. But I would argue social media is reality. Social media is what enables and allows for revolutions to take place now. What lacked in 2009 was technology and social media. The virality of these videos and word getting out and people being able to take decent quality footage on their phones and get it onto the internet has allowed us to be doing a podcast episode on it, has allowed the world to be exposed to this idea, has allowed important figures to step up and talk about support. And then the question becomes, well, what is support? What can we do with a rogue nation where we have absolutely no ability to send them money? We can't send them money even. We can't even donate to these people. We can't support them. We can't send them weapons. We have no relations with them. What are we supposed to do? The best thing that we can do is share the content, get the videos out there, get it into the collective consciousness, what is actually happening, why it matters, show these people support, because if you don't show them support, they lose energy, they lose momentum. Right now, what they have is momentum, they have energy, and they feel a sense of international support that I would say is still actually lacking. We need 2, 3, 4 times more international support and recognition of what's going on to actually see regime change, because this is going to take a lot of people, and I hope not too many lives to make this happen. People are coordinating, they're making this happen. They want the change. And so what would be the cause that this change would not happen? Well, the government has already started shooting. The police have already started shooting. There's so many ways that this might play out. It really depends on how long people can withstand loss of life and how coordinated they can be to get around and make things happen and show up every single day. This isn't the last time. It was not happening in every major city in Iran. You know, you had it again in 2019, but I think that's a poor take, because this has only happened 3 times, and this is the 3rd time. The previous time was in 2019. It was quick. They came out, they just fucking started murdering everybody. 1,500 people died. And then in 2009, you had millions of people in the streets marching, and it ended with a rigged election. They voted. They were like, let's show up and vote for the guy. That will be the way that we get this more liberal guy in power. And then they literally said, what's his name? The monkey one, Ahmadinejad. Fucking the monkey one who was saying, let's wipe Israel off the map. They got that guy in power. Of course, this is all, it's all a con.
So to your point on social media, I saw that Elon sent, he enabled access to Starlink for the citizens of Iran to be able to access the internet, even if the government shuts off access. I mean, that's a
huge,
strong play, strong support.
Huge. I don't know.
Do they have access to this is like a question I had, because from an outsider's perspective, it's like this weird dynamic where it seems like a pretty westernized, like, and youthful people, but like also under this like simultaneous like oppressive thumb of like a religious dictatorship, right? So I'm curious, like, do they have access to Twitter? Do they have access to Facebook?
It's all
Is
censored.
there like a Chinese firewall?
No,
It's all
yeah,
censored.
it's all censored. So it takes them learning how to like VPNs and proxies and getting around things and being able to communicate and gather and spread the videos and the messages. It's very difficult. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that the autocracy there is just less competent than the Chinese and their ability to sort of use technology to suppress people?
I don't know. That's a good question. But I think that it's a critical piece of this equation is their ability to continue maintaining access and sharing the content and getting the information out there. I mean, the difference since 2009 till 2022 is absolutely huge. And I think that is the reason that, again, I said social media is reality. What exists, the ideas that are propagated and spread and proliferated on social media are incredibly important, because everyone has like this is also a funny aspect of this is like, if you're in the middle of like a protest and revolution in your country, but you're getting some like exposure on social media and you feel like people are backing you worldwide, like that gives you a lot of energy and authority. You're literally getting likes, you're getting views, you know, people are sharing like, hey, keep sharing. So-and-so is asking us to send her videos. There's like all these prominent influencers now that are like, send me your videos, I'll post them to my platform. So the more these things get out, the better. But in terms of like what it takes, well, first of all, I have no idea how this is going to play out either. But I can tell you that nobody knows what the right solution should be. There are different people trying to help make this happen. Even the Shah's son has been so the Shah's son, the Shah that died, Reza Shah, his son has become a political figure, but he doesn't want to reinstall the monarchy. He just wants to help the people get rid of the Ayatollahs. So, and this regime in general. So one of the things that he said recently, apparently, is that what the people need is for the military to turn against the regime and support the people. Now, that would be a great scenario, because then we could reduce bloodshed. This whole thing could turn around if they flip the script and they start aligning with the people.
Is this the Revolutionary Guard, or are they like a subset of the military?
I guess it's that. It's kind of all one and the same.
Because that's got to be the way the only way like this small group of people could like hold power over such a majority would be through like extreme force like that, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. So if they turn with the people, it's going to take time. I mean, look, do I think that this is going to be successful? If it's not, my answer is it has to be. It literally has to be. If it's not, this country is going to go back another 1,000 years after this one. They will be under a fist for the remainder of time if they don't get through this one. They will. I don't see how they could not make this the one, because if they don't make this the one, it's over. Like, what other opportunity is there? It's the perfect time. The world has been in chaos for the last 5 years. Everyone has had enough. That idea has spread to other nations. They have the power of the internet. Like, sure, do they need more resources and all of that stuff? Absolutely. But this is it. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better.
Well, I have one follow-up, which could be like kind of a closing remark, but like, what would it take to get to garner U.S. involvement? And like, in previous executive regimes, we had taken different stances internationally where we'd say like we're pro-democracy, we want to like fight for individuals' freedoms, and a lot of those endeavors have sort of turned out unfruitful, to where it seems like the U.S. has turned a little more insular. But like, what would it take for the U.S. to like just be like, hey, we support this uprising? I mean, does that go against our self-interest? Like I kind of want to bring this home to.
Yeah, great question. The political strategy question with Iran. First of all, I cannot even believe we deal with this regime, that we actually even engage with these guys. This is one of those areas where, again, for all of his faults, Trump played it right. He was like, fuck you guys. I'm not. Deal's off the table. You are criminals. You treat your people like shit. You are sponsoring terrorism. No deal. Like, it's not happening. And he froze billions of dollars of assets, and he sanctioned the shit out of them, and he put them into more turmoil. Why? So that the people would solve this, so that the people of this country would realize our leadership has put us in a situation where not only are we suffering, now we're suffering internationally. Now we can't do anything. These people can't pay for anything anymore. The inflation rate in that country is like, we talk about inflation here. The inflation there is just through the roof. You want to hear one really sad anecdote? Persian people are so proud of, like, they want to always treat people to like these huge, extravagant dinners, right? And they want to have people over, and it's all this like culture of hospitality. And the dinners, as Eric knows, are extravagant. Like, it's like 7 courses, and the price of meat has gotten so high, this is heartbreaking, that people can't have people over the way they used to because they can't cook them the meals that they used to. And that applies to eggs and chicken and all these other things that now are inaccessible even to the middle class. That's how bad things have gotten. It's sad. It's devastating. It's depressing. They can't have New Year's parties like they used to and have people over. It's literally a crisis of meaning these people are going through. So Trump comes in and goes, oh, no, we're not doing this. But then you got Biden. This is such a mistake, engaging these people, talking about unfreezing their assets, sending them billions of dollars. This billions of dollars that is going to go to the Iranian government is not a dime of it is going to go to the people. These are literally, I mean, I don't know if I've expressed this enough. These are the most corrupt, sick, awful people in the world, man. They just torture and abuse people. There is no sense in talking to them. They are, of course, after nuclear weapons as well, and they don't represent the Iranian people, but the Iranian people have never had a choice in the matter. So the best thing that we can do and hope for is for the people to be successful, to hope for the least amount of bloodshed, to hope that what does come as a result of this chaos is something of structure and meaning politically that represents the people and the ethos of this nation and this culture that allows for freedom across all fronts, democratic, whatever sort of system that they feel is best for them, that allows them to enter the conversation internationally again, that actually would allow them to become our ally. How incredible would that be for Iran to become an ally of the United States in a region that desperately needs stability?
Right. Just funny that we still pick and choose, and we will send billions of dollars to Ukraine for that revolution or that protection. But like when it comes to some other freedoms, it's like, no, that's your problem. Interesting.
Biden needs to come out way stronger. He kind of said like a little, hey, don't hurt your people. Don't kill them. He needs to come out way stronger and say like, we are absolutely in support of the people. This is a human rights atrocity. We aren't dealing with you anymore, and we're here to support the people however we can. That's what they need to do. I don't think they will, and they're just going to leave these people to figure it out for themselves. Hopefully, the citizens of the world can help. And to help, I'm serious. Like, it's so funny. Like, I've always thought, what's the purpose of putting up images or changing your flag or all this? Like, I thought it's so funny because I always thought this was just virtue signaling. I was completely wrong, Stephen. You're going to find this really interesting. I was completely wrong about this, actually. What I learned is that in situations like this, it's the only thing you have. This is the communication, the messaging to share with the world what matters. And the more that you show support to that nation, actually, and its people, the more emboldened and powerful they feel to continue going. I've already said that, but I can't understate it. And I was so wrong about that. I didn't understand that. You only understand it when you can, kind of like have the empathy to fully put yourself there and imagine yourself on the front line. If you're on the front line, that's what you want. You want to feel the support of the world. So,
all right. We're banned. We're banned from Iran. You and I are banned. Stephen could still go. We're banned, and we need this. We need this revolution to be the one.
Yeah, we really do.
Well, I won't be going anytime soon, but I am more intrigued than I was previously after you told me that Anthony Bourdain said it was the greatest place on earth. So,
yeah,
I kind of want to know why, but also I kind of want to just watch the episode because I haven't seen it. Maybe that'll be enough.
Watch the episode and definitely check out, for those curious of what Iran is like, there's some great travel vlogs on YouTube. I particularly really like Drew Binsky's. He's such a friendly guy. By the way, this is a red-haired Jewish guy that's our age, and his favorite country.
We'll get him on the pod one day. We'll get Drew Binsky on here.
Yes, we absolutely will, and we'll ask him about Iran because I'm sure he has a lot of opinions on this. I'm sure he's actually been posting about it. I haven't checked because I'm sure he's feeling a lot of things right now. And man, I would say like anything, I invite our community in particular to do what they can to share the content that they see. Even if you're not one of those that wants to like post it to your profile, you don't have a big social media presence, please share this episode at least with your friends and family to give them a different perspective on what's going on. I think we provided a unique one today. And if you see something interesting and, share it, DM it to some friends, get it out there, keep it going, because that's the only thing these people have right now. That's the only thing we can do.
Yeah, and then thank you. This was a good learning episode for me. I really enjoyed it. I like to sit back and think a little bit sometimes.
It was the first time we had our fearless leader cry on pod.
Oh, damn it!
I did see a couple tears, so I have to check it out on YouTube.
Oh man, well, it's a lot.
I appreciate
guys.
The passion.
It's heartbreaking, and it means a lot to me if that wasn't already apparent. So, yeah, thanks guys for doing this episode. All right, much love to you guys out there. Hope you enjoyed this pod, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Peace.
Peace.